All right, let's get right into it. So many businesses today are running on systems that feel like they're held together with, digital duct tape and a whole lot of hope. But what if you could actually inject the power of AI into those old workflows without having to tear everything down and start from zero? Well, in this explainer, we're going to show you exactly how to do that. This description is just perfect, isn't it? Frankenstein's monster, it's this patchwork of old and new, all stitched together over the years, and it's what so many companies are relying on. It's such a powerful metaphor because it just nails the hidden risks and, frankly, the sheer difficulty of keeping these critical but ancient systems running. And this isn't just some tech headache. It is a massive economic anchor. I mean, look at that number, $1.52 trillion. That's the estimated cost of this problem's drag on innovation in the US alone. It is a staggering amount of money that represents lost opportunities and progress that's just been stalled out. So let's actually put a name to this whole problem. We're calling it the legacy system trap, and it's a really vicious cycle. The very systems that keep your business running day to day are often the exact same ones holding it back from having any kind of future. Now, at the very heart of this trap is a concept called technical debt, and this definition here just says it all. It's not just about using old tech, it's the compounding cost of always choosing the easy fix over the right one. Every single patch, every shortcut, it adds interest to this debt, which makes any future changes slower, way riskier, and a lot more expensive. So, how can you tell if you're caught in this trap? Well, these right here are the classic signs. You've got data locked away in different systems that just don't talk to each other. Your maintenance budget is probably through the roof, and the security vulnerabilities, they are a constant nagging threat. Trying to scale up or adapt to anything new feels like a constant expensive fight. Okay, so this is where the problem becomes absolutely critical. It's not just about being a little slow or inefficient anymore. That technical debt we were just talking about, it has now become the #1 wall blocking you from a future powered by AI. And this chart really just lays out the disconnect perfectly. On one side, you have a whopping 97% of companies saying, yep, we're adopting AI. But then you look at the other side, and less than half, only 50%, are actually seeing widespread benefits. So there's this huge gap between buying the cool AI tools and actually getting real value from them. So what's going on? And this gets to the absolute heart of the issue. The AI itself, it's not the problem. The algorithms are amazing. The failure point, the reason for that 50% gap, is the shaky, inflexible legacy architecture that it's all being forced to run on. It's like you just can't build a skyscraper on a foundation made of sand. And hey, leadership knows it. This Gartner stat is pretty telling. Nearly 60% of chief information officers are pointing directly at their own legacy systems as one of the biggest barriers they face. They see the wall, and they know exactly what it's made of. So, how in the world did you break through that wall without, blowing up your entire business in the process? Well, that brings us to the solution, a smarter, much safer path forward called the incremental bridge. This is not that old, high-risk, rip-and-replace nightmare. This is the modern, proven alternative. Let's just compare the two paths here, side by side. You look at the Big Bang column on the left, you see the massive risks, the huge upfront costs, and the incredible business disruption. It's an all-or-nothing gamble, really. Now, look over at the incremental column. Lower risk, costs that are spread out over time, and you start delivering value almost right away with minimal disruption. The choice, it becomes pretty clear, doesn't it? Okay, so this is the core of the whole strategy. It's a simple but really powerful 3-step process. Wrap, augment, and migrate. First, you wrap. You build a modern interface and API layer right around the old system without touching its core. Second, you augment. You use that brand new layer to plug in AI tools to improve specific tasks. And then finally, only when it makes sense, you migrate, gradually swapping out old components with new ones over time. So what do you actually use to build this bridge? Let's talk about the specific tools in the toolkit that make this whole incremental strategy a reality. First up, we've got APIs and microservices. Now, think of these as the universal adapters for your technology. They're the connective tissue that safely opens a door to the data and the logic trapped inside those old systems, letting your new, modern AI tools use it in a really controlled way. Next up, low-code platforms. These are an absolute game changer for that augment phase we just talked about. They let your teams build new AI-powered tools and workflows super fast, using visual interfaces instead of months of heavy coding. It really accelerates everything. But what if a system is so old that it doesn't even have an API to wrap? Well, that's where robotic process automation, or RPA, becomes your secret weapon. RPA bots basically interact with old systems just like a human would, clicking buttons, copying data, filling out forms. It's a non-invasive way to automate those mind-numbing manual tasks instantly. Okay, we've covered the tech, but that is only half the story. And honestly, it might even be the easier half. See, the best tech strategy in the world will absolutely fail if the people who have to use it refuse to change. So the real question is, how do you win the human war? This quote is so fascinating because it gets right to the root of the problem. Resistance to change often isn't logical, it's primal. Our lizard brain, as she calls it, sees change and immediately flags it as a threat. So if you don't address the deep-seated why behind a new system, you're not just fighting against old habits, you're fighting against millions of years of human instinct. So, how do you get ahead of this? Well, you start by finding those internal champions who can get others excited. Then you deliver training in small, frequent microdoses, so it's not overwhelming. You have to focus on a design that actually makes people's jobs easier. And, maybe most importantly, all of this has to be backed by clear, consistent communication from leadership, constantly reminding everyone why this change is so important. All right, we've covered the problem, the strategy, the tools, and the people. Now let's bring this all home and talk about your first concrete step. How do you get started? This is your playbook, boiled down into 4 simple steps. First, identify one major pain point caused by a legacy system. Second, you plan how you're going to wrap and augment it. Third, you pilot a small, low-risk project to prove that it can work. And finally, you take that win and you build on it to gain momentum for the next challenge. And that leaves us with one final, and I think pretty powerful question. I want you to think about your own organization right now. What is that one outdated process, that one clunky module that you could start with? Because by applying this incremental strategy, you can start rescuing your workflow not next year, but today. That first step is usually the smallest, but it is always the most important one.